ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, we'll start this 16th chapter. Text 1 to 3. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Samshaddhir Jnana Yoga Vyavastitihi Dhanam Damascha Yajnascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam Ahimsa Satyam Akrodas Tyagat Shantira Apaishunam Daya Bhuteshva Aloluptvam Mardavam Hrir Achapalam Tejagakshama Dhriti Saucham Adroho Natimanita Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. Okay. Translation: The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature. So divine and demoniac. So here Krishna gives the whole list of divine in one shloka. Then rest of the things it will get into demoniac. Okay, purport. In the beginning of 15th chapter, the banyan tree of this material world was explained. The extra roots coming out of it were compared to the activities of the living entities, some auspicious and some inauspicious. In ninth chapter also, the devas or godly and the asuras, the ungodly or demons, were explained. Now, according to Vedic rites, activities in the mode of goodness are considered auspicious for progress on the path of liberation, and such activities are called Daivi Prakriti, transcendental by nature. Those who are situated in the transcendental nature make progress on the path of liberation. For those who are acting in the modes of passion and ignorance, on the other hand, there is no on the other hand, there is no possibility of liberation. Either they will have to remain in this material world as human beings, or they will descend among the species of animals, even lower life forms. In this 16th chapter, the Lord explains both the transcendental nature and its attendant qualities, and the demoniac nature and its qualities. He also explains the advantages and disadvantages of these qualities. So here we can see, as Prabhupada is nicely explaining, that in the banyan tree example, we saw that the tree is an inverted representation of the spiritual world, and then in that banyan tree there are some sub roots that are actually coming down, and these sub roots actually are, just a minute, here it's mentioned that the extra roots coming out of it were compared to activities of the living entities, some auspicious and some inauspicious. So both auspicious and inauspicious activities that a man performs, it actually generates a further root, and that actually solidifies our material existence. So like that, it happens. And here, what are those, pious activities and impious activities, good and bad activities? That is described in this chapter, divine and demoniac. Hmm. So, okay. So the word abhijatasya is reference to one born of transcendental qualities or godly tendencies is very significant. To beget a child in a godly atmosphere is known in the Vedic scripture as Garbhadan Samskar. If the parents want a child in godly qualities, they should follow the 10 principles recommended for social life of the human being. So that is Dashavida Samskar. There is 10 different samskaras are there. From the beginning is the Garbhadan Samskar, and the final is the Antyam Samskar. So, like, in between there is the Simanta is also one of the Samskar, and then Namkarna is one Samskar, Jataka is one Samskar. So, like that, no different Samskaras are there. So, that has to be performed. So, throughout the life till the death, there are different Samskaras are there, and that has to be performed. So, somebody who's born out of samskar and who's been following the samskars throughout the life, so they are generally called as the brahmanas. The brahmanas are the higher classes of people, so they are generally born out of samskars. And why it is mentioned kalau shudra sambhava? Because in Kali Yuga there is no samskar that is followed, or namesake something is followed. So that is why everybody in Kali Yuga are shudra, because nobody has come out of samskar. So most of the people are without samskar. It is also mentioned janmana jayate shudra. So like by birth everybody is shudra. Janmana jayate shudra, samskarat bhavet dvija. So by for like performance of samskara, a person becomes dvija, or a twice born. Like twice born means like he can be a vaishya or a kshatriya or a brahmana, right? The samskarat bhavet dvija, veda patat bhavet vipra. So, like by studying a particular section of the Vedas very nicely, he can be a teacher. Such a person is called Vipra. It's also some kind of a Brahmana. So, such a person is called Vipra. And then Brahma Janati iti Brahmana. So, one who understands the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord or Brahman. So, then he is called as Brahmana. So without understanding Brahman, so he cannot become Brahmana. Right? So like that it is there. So this is, so 10 principles, like 10 samskaras, Dashavada Samskar. So that is very much needed for social life of human being. No, otherwise it will become animal society. That's what is happening in the modern age. Okay, in Bhagavad Gita, we have studied also. Before that, sex life for begetting a good child is Krishna himself. What is that? Dharma aviruddha kamosmi. So Lord is telling that sex life where it is not against the religious principles. So then Krishna is telling like that kind of sex life is I myself. So that is like begetting no children out of proper samskar is godly. No, it is very nice actually. Okay, sex life is not condemned provided the process is used in Krishna consciousness. Those who are in Krishna consciousness at least should not beget children like cats and dogs, but should beget them so that they may become Krishna conscious after birth. That should be the advantage of children born of a father and mother absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So, Prabhupada uses nice word, absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So, this is true for even preaching. So, more a preacher is absorbed in Krishna consciousness, more he can actually invest Krishna in other people. So in the same way here also it is mentioned, if both father and mother are absorbed in Krishna consciousness, they can actually beget children who are very nice. Okay, social institution known as Varnashrama Dharma, the institution dividing society into 4 divisions of social life and 4 occupational divisions or castes, is not meant to divide human society according to birth. Such divisions are in terms of educational qualifications. They are not there to keep the society in a state of peace and prosperity. The qualities mentioned herein are explained as transcendental qualities meant for making a person progress in spiritual understanding so that he can get liberated from the material world. So here we should note that no material qualities. So all these things are like in one sense, if we see compassion and truthfulness and things like that and all, it's if you see austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, So in one sense, these qualities in themselves cannot give us Krishna consciousness. No, that is very clear. So no, because like no amount of material permutation and combination can actually result in Krishna consciousness. That is not possible. But then these are favorable ground. No, these things are, some material situation is favorable for Krishna consciousness, then it should be adopted. So no, that like that. So these are all, that's why it is called as transcendental qualities, right? So but these qualities in themselves cannot make a person progress, but these are all conducive environment for a person to progress. So Krishna consciousness is on its own. No, it doesn't have any what is that it doesn't require any support from any other material things. No. Okay. In the Varnashrama institution, the sannyasi or person in the renounced order of life is considered to be the head or the spiritual master of all the social statuses and orders. Like we have four social status and four and four plus four, 8. So four Varnas: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and four ashramas. So Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. So of the four Varnas and four ashramas, so the sannyasi is considered to be the head of all the ashramas and varnas, because he doesn't have any personal interest in the world, and he is renounced, and he can speak something unbiased, and he has renounced means he is in knowledge. He is in the platform of Brahman. So such a person's knowledge can help everybody, and that's why he is considered to be the master. So here one very interesting thing to note: the master is not a person who is aiming for some personal gratification. So who can become a master? A person who has renounced more, he can actually become the master. So he doesn't have any personal self-interest, and he is unbiased. So then he can become a master, right? Okay, a Brahmana is considered to be the spiritual master of the three other sections of society, namely Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So in the Varnas, the Brahmana is the best, so he is the master. But if we join Varna and Ashrama, somebody who's a sannyasi, he is considered to be the master of everyone else. Right? But a sannyasi who's on the top of spiritual institution is considered to be the spiritual master of the Brahmanas also. For a sannyasi, the first qualification should be fearlessness, because a sannyasi has to be alone without any support or guarantee of support. He has simply to depend on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one thinks, after I leave my connections, who will protect me? So he should not accept the renounced order of life. One must be fully convinced that Krishna, or Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his localized aspect as Paramatma, is always within, and he is seeing everything, and he always knows what one intends to do. One must thus have firm conviction that Krishna as Paramatma will take care of a soul surrendered to him. I shall never be alone, one should think. Even if I live in the darkest region of the forest, I shall be accompanied by Krishna, and he will give me all protection. That conviction is called abhayam, fearlessness. This state of mind is necessary for a person in the renounced order of life. So now Prabhupada is actually going to one by one qualities, what is mentioned in the translation. So he is telling that this first principle, abhayam, is a transcendental quality, but it is to be practiced by whom? By a renunciant. For a renunciant, this is required. So if somebody is a grahastha and somebody is like any other, this one, so abhayam is not that much expected from them. So, but a renounced order of person, so he should have the abhayam principle. Thus he has to purify his existence. There are so many rules and regulations to be followed in the renounced order of life. Most important of all, a sannyasi is strictly forbidden to have any intimate relationship with a woman. He is even forbidden to talk with a woman in a secluded place. Lord Chaitanya was an ideal sannyasi, and when he was at Puri, his feminine devotees could not even come near to offer their respects. They were advised to bow down from a distant place. This is not a sign of hatred for women as a class, but it is a stricture imposed on sannyasi not to have close connection with women. One has to follow the rules and regulations of a particular status of life in order to purify his existence. For a sannyasi, intimate relation with women and possession of wealth for sense gratification are strictly forbidden. The ideal sannyasi was Lord Chaitanya himself, and we can learn from him, from his life, that he was very strict in regard to women. Although he is considered to be most liberal incarnation, accepting the most fallen conditioned souls, he strictly followed the rules and regulations of sannyas order of life in connection with association with women. One of his personal associates, namely Chota Haridas, was associated with Lord Chaitanya along with his other confidential personal associates. But somehow or other, this Chota Haridas looked lustily on a young woman, and Lord Chaitanya was so strict that he at once rejected him from the society of his personal associates. Lord Chaitanya said, for a sannyasi or anyone who's aspiring to get out of the clutches of material nature and trying to elevate himself to the spiritual nature and go back home, back to Godhead, for him looking toward material possession and women for sense gratification, not even enjoying them, just looking towards them with such a propensity, is so condemned that he had better committed suicide before experiencing such illicit desires. So these are the processes for purification. So this is for a sannyasi, no, that is mentioned here. Okay. The next item is jnana vyavasthiti, jnana yoga vyavasthiti, being engaged in the cultivation of knowledge. Sannyasi life is meant for distributing knowledge to the householders and others who have forgotten their real life of spiritual advancement. A sannyasi is supposed to beg from door to door for his livelihood, but this does not mean that he is a beggar. Humility is also one of the qualification of a transcendently situated person, and out of sheer humility, the sannyasi goes from door to door, not exactly for the purpose of begging, but to see the householder and awaken them to Krishna consciousness. This is the duty of a sannyasi. If he is actually advanced and so ordered by his spiritual master, he should preach Krishna consciousness with logic and understanding. And if one is not so advanced, he should not accept the renounced order of life. But even if one has accepted the renounced order of life without sufficient knowledge, he should engage himself fully in hearing from a bona fide spiritual master to cultivate knowledge. A sannyasi or in the renounced order of life must be situated in fearlessness, sattva samshuddhi, purity, and jnana yoga, vyavasthiti, or knowledge. So the next item is charity. So now sannyasi's chapter is over. So now the next item is coming. So this is the for the householders. So the next item is charity. Charity is meant for householders. The householders should earn a livelihood by an honorable means and spend 50% of their income to propagate Krishna consciousness all over the world. Thus, a householder should give in charity to institutional societies that are engaged in that way. Charity should be given to a right receiver. There are different kinds of charity, as will be explained later on. Charity in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Charity in the mode of goodness is recommended by the scriptures, but charity in the mode of passion and ignorance is not recommended. So, charity in the mode of goodness means to further the causes such as enlightening people in the process of Krishna consciousness, bringing people to the level of knowledge wherein they can become eternally happy and peaceful in their existence. No, charity in mode of passion is done for name and fame. No, they will, even if they give a small amount, they'll make sure that their name is highlighted everywhere and things like that. So that's charity in mode of passion. And charity in mode of ignorance is a drunkard is passing some tips to the waiter who's serving him drinks. That's like charity in mode of ignorance. So these are all not recommended, so because it is simply a waste of money. Charity should be given only to propagate Krishna consciousness all over the world. That is charity in the mode of goodness. Okay. So then, as far as Dhamma, self-control is concerned, it is not only meant for other orders of religious society, but is especially meant for the householder. Although he has a wife, a householder should not use his senses for sex life unnecessarily. There are restrictions for the householders even in sex life, which should only be engaged in the propagation of children. If he does not require children, he should not enjoy sex life with his wife. Modern society enjoys sex life with contraceptive methods or more abominable methods to avoid the responsibility of children. This is not in the transcendental quality, but is demoniac. If anyone, even if he is a householder, wants to make progress in spiritual life, he must control his sex life and should not beget a child without the purpose of serving Krishna. If he is able to beget children who will be in Krishna consciousness, one can produce hundreds of children. But without this capacity, one should not indulge only for sense pleasure. Sacrifice is another item to be performed by the householders because sacrifice require a large amount of money. Those in other orders of life, namely brahmacharya, vanaprastha, and sannyas, have no money. They live by begging. So, performance of different types of sacrifice is meant for the householders. So, they should perform Agnihotra sacrifice as enjoined in the Vedic literature. But such sacrifice at the present moment are very expensive and it is not possible for any householder to perform them. The best sacrifice recommended in this age is called Sankirtan Yajna. This Sankirtan Yajna, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the best and most inexpensive sacrifice. Everyone can adopt it and derive benefit. So these three items, namely charity, sense control, and performance of sacrifice, are meant for the householder. Then Swadhyaya, Vedic study, is meant for brahmacharya or student life. Brahmacharis should have no connection with women. They should live a life of celibacy and engage the mind in study of Vedic literature for cultivation of spiritual knowledge. This is called Swadhyaya. Right? So this is very, very important for brahmacharis. So tapas or austerity is especially meant for retired life. That means vanaprastha. So they vanaprasthis are meant to undergo tapasya. So one should not remain a householder throughout his whole life. He must always remember that there are four divisions of life: brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. So after grahastha, the householder life, one should retire. If one lives for 100 years, he should spend 25 years in student life, 25 years in householder life, 25 in retired life, and 25 in renounced order of life. These are the regulations of the Vedic religious discipline. A man retired from household life must practice austerities of the body, mind, and tongue. This is called tapasya. So tapasya means to regulate body, mind, and tongue. This is called tapasya. The entire Varnashrama Dharma society is meant for tapasya. Without tapasya or austerity, no human being can get liberation. So that's why in the Bhagavatam it is mentioned, Tapo Divyam Putraka Ena Sattvam, right? So it's like Tapo Divyam. So it is very, very important for performing tapasya to advance in Krishna consciousness. Okay. The theory that there is no need of austerity in life, that one can go on speculating and everything will be nice, is recommended neither in Vedic literature nor in Bhagavad Gita. Such theories are manufactured by show bottle spiritualists who are trying to gather more followers. If there are restrictions, rules, and regulations, people will not become attracted. Therefore, those who want followers in the name of religion just to have a show only don't restrict the lives of their students nor their own lives. But that method is not approved by the Vedas. See, modern spiritual institutions, they just say, okay, no, you can have wine, you can have meat, you can have everything, and then no, you can also practice something spiritual. So that's like bogus. They don't restrict their senses and they don't restrict the senses of their students. So then what kind of spirituality it is? Spirituality means especially Prabhupada often says this statement, yoga indriya samyama. That means yoga is meant for controlling one's senses. Okay. As far as Brahmanical qualities of simplicity is concerned, not only should a particular order of life follow this principle, but every member, be he in the Brahmacharya ashram, Grahastha ashram, Vanaprastha ashram, or Sannyas ashram, one should be very simple and straightforward. Ahimsa means not asserting the progressive life of any living entity. No, it's very nicely it's put. Ahimsa means like to create some disturbance to somebody. And ahimsa means, so here Prabhupada is mentioning, not asserting the progressive life of any living entity. So every living entity is making some progress. So in terms of meat eating, Prabhupada often says that an animal has been killed. So for him, there is a particular duration that animal has to spend in that animal species, and then he will be elevated to the next species like that. And by killing him, so we are actually obstructing his progress, and he has to take another life and he has to delay his process and things like that. So it is kind of a, he's going through some cycle of his karma and we are going in between and disturbing that cycle. So it's called himsa. No, not just because some blood is coming, like that is why it is himsa. So it's more deeper aspect is like, no, we are actually checking his progress in his life. No, he's going through his own cycle of this one, and in between we are going and we are doing something. No, it checks his progress, and it may delay his process of getting back to the human form of life, and that's a himsa. Okay. And then one should not think that since spiritual spark is never killed, even after killing the body, there is no harm in killing animals for sense gratification. So this is also teaching of Bhagavad Gita. Like, no, Krishna says that, oh, why are you hesitating to kill your relatives? You should kill them. No, you should know that soul cannot be killed. So no, it is not just whimsical statement. It is because at that point in time, according to Dharma, so those people who have taken adharma, side of adharma, and then Arjuna was a Kshatriya who was responsible for like executing that particular dharma. So he is supposed to kill them, no, because they took the side of adharma, and that is the dharmic thing that Arjuna is supposed to do. And Arjuna was trying to go away from dharma, and it cannot be just we have to see. We should not be attached to either killing or not killing. No, we should be following the dharma. What is my dharma at this point in time? If my dharma says that, no, this particular thing, no, if I'm a police and there is a thief and he should be punished, then he should be punished. No, I cannot say I will not punish him. So, and at the same time, if I don't have any authority, and then how can I, offer any punishment to somebody? So in this way, like, we have to see that this here we cannot just kill animals just for sense gratification. So people are now addicted to eating animals in spite of having an ample supply of grains, fruits, and milk. There is no necessity for animal killing. This injunction is for everyone. Ahimsa is for everyone. No? So when there is no alternative, one may kill an animal, but it should be offered in sacrifice. So this is like apad dharma, like it is not a regular dharma that is mentioned here. At any rate, when there is an ample food supply for humanity, persons who are desiring to make advancement in spiritual realization should not commit violence to animals. Real ahimsa means not checking anyone's progressive life. The animals are also making progress in their evolutionary life by transmigrating from one category of animal to another. If a particular animal is killed, then his progress is checked. If an animal is staying in a particular body for so many days or so many years and is untimely killed, then he has to come back again to that form of life to complete the remaining days in order to be promoted to the another species of life. So their progress should not be checked simply to satisfy one's palate. This is called ahimsa. Okay. Satyam, the word means that one should not distort the truth for some personal interest. In Vedic literature, there are some difficult passages, but the meaning or the purpose should be learned from a bona fide spiritual master. That is the process of understanding the Vedas. Shruti means that one should hear from the authority. One should not construe some interpretation of his personal interest. There are so many commentaries on Bhagavad Gita that misinterpret the original text. The real import of the word should be presented, and that should be learned from a bona fide spiritual master. So it's a very nice point. So we should not just speculate on something and give something. So we should just repeat whatever the bona fide spiritual master is telling, in form of purports and then Acharya's works. And in this way, we should learn from the parampara, and we should just simply repeat the words of the parampara. No, we should not introduce our own this one. Right. So in the modern education is that, okay, I go to a teacher, learn something, and then no, I'll try to find out something better than what he knows, right? So that's not this one here. So here Krishna is the all-knowing person, and from him the knowledge is coming down, and we cannot become too smart than Krishna, right? So the knowledge that comes down is perfect, actually. Okay. Akrodha means to check anger. Even if there is provocation, one should be tolerant, for once one becomes angry, his whole body becomes polluted. Anger is a product of mode of passion and lust, mode of passion and lust. So one who is transcendently situated should check himself from anger. Apaishunam means that one should not find fault with others or correct them unnecessarily. No, this is something like that we had many times. Hare Krishna. So the internet was lost. like in any this one, like where did we till where you could able to hear? Somebody can let me know. Yes, Sarvanath Prabhu or Mataji.
Guruji, you were discussing about the modern day education, how that till that we were able to hear. After that, I don't know what happened. We couldn't hear.
Modern day education. Mm,
The
so,
paragraph
Yes.
Akroda means we have to start from there.
oh, okay, Akroda, okay.
Yes.
Akroda means check.
তোমাকে সর্বনাথ কৃষ্ণ প্রভু আর মাতাজি
Okay. Okay. Then Akroda means to check anger. Even if there is provocation, one should be tolerant. For once one becomes angry, his whole body becomes polluted. Anger is product of material of the mode of passion and lust. One who is transcendently situated should check himself from anger. Apaishunam means that one should not find fault with others or correct them unnecessarily. Of course, to call a thief is not fault finding, but to call a honest person a thief is very much offensive for one who is making advancement in spiritual life. And Hri means that one should be very modest and must not perform some act which is abominable. Achapalam, determination, means that one should not be agitated or frustrated in some attempts. There may be failure in some attempt, but one should not be sorry for that. He should make progress with patience and determination. The word tejas used here is meant for the Kshatriyas. The Kshatriyas should always be very strong and to be able to give protection to the weak. They should not pose themselves as non-violent. If violence is required, they must exhibit it. But a person who is able to curb down his enemy may, under certain conditions, show forgiveness. He may excuse minor offenses. Saucham means cleanliness, not only in mind and body, but in one's dealings also. It is especially meant for mercantile people who should not deal in the black market. And then Manita means expecting honor, applies to the Shudras or worker class, which are considered, according to the Vedic injunctions, to be the lowest of the four classes. They should not be puffed up with unnecessary prestige or honor and should remain in their own status. It is the duty of the Shudras to offer respect to the higher classes for the upkeep of social order. So here we see that the classification of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra is made in terms of the advancement of knowledge. So more a person is able to understand his spiritual position, more higher is his position in the social order. So it is not the like the Brahmanas were the most poorest people. So but then they are the head of the institution, right? So like in Vedic system, it doesn't matter how much money you have and how much like or how much you have memorized, that kind of knowledge you have, that doesn't have any value in the Vedic in the Vedic times. It is all about how much of knowledge in the real sense, that means knowledge about body and soul, know how much we have, and that much a person is in the higher order. So generally the higher order, the more the knowledge, more a person becomes humble, no. And the lowest order is Shudras, and they sometimes become puffed up, and when they become puffed, no, that is not very good for them. So they have to like honor and respect so the higher classes of people, that is mentioned. Okay, all these 26 qualifications mentioned are transcendental qualities. They should be cultivated according to the different statuses of social and occupational order. The purport is that even though material conditions are miserable, if these qualities are developed by patience by all classes of men, then gradually it is possible to rise to the highest platform of transcendental realization. Right? Okay. So with this, we'll go to the next sloka, text 4. Dambo darpo vimanascha krodha parushyameva cha ajnanam chabijatasya partha sampadam asurim. So here, Lord is telling what is asuric quality. Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance, these qualities belong to those of demoniac nature, O son of Pritha. In this verse, the royal road to hell is described. The demoniac want to make a show of religion and advancement in spiritual science, although they do not follow the principles. They are always arrogant or proud in possessing some type of education or so much wealth. They desire to be worshipped by others and demand respectability, although they do not command respect. Over trifles, they become very angry and speak harshly, not gently. They do not know what should be done and what should not be done. They do everything whimsically according to their own desire, and they do not recognize any authority. These demoniac qualities are taken on by them from the beginning of their bodies in the wombs of their mothers, and as they grow, they manifest all these inauspicious qualities. Okay, Daivi Sampad Vimokshaya Nibad Nibandha Yasur Suri Mata Masucha Sampadam Daivim Abhijato Si Pandava. The transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation, whereas the demoniac qualities make for bondage. Do not worry, O son of Pandu, for you are born with the divine qualities. Purport. Lord Krishna encouraged Arjuna by telling him that he was not born with demoniac qualities. His involvement in the fight was not demoniac because he was considering the pros and cons. He was considering whether respectable persons such as Bhishma and Drona should be killed or not. So he was not acting under the influence of anger, false prestige, or harshness. Therefore, he was not of the quality of the demons. For a Kshatriya, a military man, shooting arrows at the enemy is considered transcendental, and refraining from such a duty is demoniac. Therefore, there was no cause for Arjuna to lament. Anyone who performs the regulative principles of different orders of life is transcendently situated. Okay. Text 6. Dvabhutas sargau lokesmin daiva asura eva cha daivo vistarasha prokta asuram partha me shrinu. O son of Pritha, in this world there are two kinds of created beings. One is called divine and other demoniac. I have already explained to you at length the divine qualities. Now hear from me of the demoniac. So now Krishna is going to take on the case of demoniac and he is going to explain very graphically actually. Purport. Lord Krishna, having assured Arjuna that he was born with divine qualities, is now describing the demoniac way. The conditioned living entities are divided into two classes in this world. Those who are born with divine qualities follow a regulated life, that is to say, they abide by the injunctions in the scriptures and by the authorities. One should perform duties in the light of authoritative scripture. This mentality is called divine. One who does not follow the regulative principles as they are laid down in scriptures and who acts according to his whims is called demoniac or asuric. There is no criterion but obedience to the regulative principles of scriptures. It is mentioned in the Vedic literature that both the demigods and the demons are born of the Prajapati. The only difference is that one class obeys the Vedic injunction and other does not. So this is how this one is. Okay, text 7. Pravritim cha nivritim cha jana na vidurasuraha na saucham napi cha charo na satyam teshu vidyate. Okay. Those who are demoniac do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior nor truth is found in them. Purport. In every civilized human society, there is some set of scriptural rules and regulations which is followed from the beginning, especially among the Aryans, those who adopt the Vedic civilization and who are known as the most advanced civilized peoples. Those who do not follow the scriptural injunctions are supposed to be demons. So it's very clearly mentioned that only the divine means those who follow by the scriptural injunctions. No, rest everybody are comes into the category of demons. Therefore, it is stated here that the demons do not know the scriptural rules, nor do they have any inclination to follow them. Most of them do not know them, and even if some of them know, they have not the tendency to follow them. They have no faith, nor are they willing to act in terms of Vedic injunctions. The demons are not clean, either externally or internally. One should always be careful to keep his body clean by bathing, brushing teeth, shaving, changing clothes, etc. As far as internal cleanliness is concerned, one should always remember the holy names of God and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The demons neither like nor follow all these rules for external and internal cleanliness. As for behavior, there are many regulations, many rules and regulations guiding humans' behavior, such as the Manu Samhita, which is the law of the human race. Even up to today, those who are Hindus follow Manu Samhita. Laws of inheritance and other legalities are derived from this book. Now, in the Manu Samhita, it is clearly stated that a woman should not be given freedom. That does not mean that women are to be kept as slaves, but they are like children. Children are not given freedom, but that does not mean that they are kept as slaves. The demons have now neglected such injunctions, and they think that women should be given as much freedom as men. However, this has not improved the social condition of the world. Actually, a woman should be given protection at every stage of life. She should be given protection by the father in her young days, by the husband in her youth, and by the grown up sons in her old age. This is proper social behavior according to Manu Samhita. But modern education has artificially devised a puffed up concept of womanly life, and therefore, marriage is practically now an imagination in human society. The social condition of women is thus not very good now, although those who are married are in a better condition than those who are proclaiming their so called freedom. The demons, therefore, do not accept any instruction which is good for society, and because they do not follow the experience of great sages and the rules and regulations laid down by the sages, the social condition of the demoniac people is very miserable. Right? Okay. So text 8. Asatyam apratishtam the jagat ahuranishwaram ap, um, aparaspara sambhutam kim manyat kama haitukam. So they say, so this is the demoniac attitude towards the world. No, they say that this world is unreal with no foundation, no God in control. They say it is produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust. No, this is the demoniac attitude towards this world. Purport. The demoniac conclude that the world is phantasmagoria. Phantasmagoria means some kind of an illusion or some kind of a, what is that? Huh? Fantasy. Phantasmagoria is, the meaning is a sequence of real or imaginary images like those seen in a dream. Okay, so it's like that. So it's kind of a fantasy, like that. So the demoniac conclude that the world is phantasmagoria. There is no cause or effect, no controller, no purpose. Everything is unreal. They say that this cosmic manifestation arises due to chance, due to chance, material actions and reactions. So that means it's just by an accident it has come up. The whole material creation has come up by an accident. So this Big Bang theory and stuffs like that and all. So they try to prove this only. Now somehow by accident this world has come into existence by some chemical combination, something like it just came up, the whole creation and things like that. So, but if we ask them, okay, you create another Big Bang and create some, no, have you ever seen creation happening from a bang? No, from a bomb blast. It only destruction happens. So, but that's like weird idea. People actually come up with. Okay. So they say that this cosmic manifestation arises due to chance, material action, and reactions. They do not think that the world was created by God for a certain purpose. They have their own theory that the world has come about in its own way and that there is no reason to believe that there is God behind it. For them, there is no difference between spirit and matter, and they should not accept the supreme. They do not accept the supreme spirit. Everything is matter only, and the whole cosmos is supposed to be a mass of ignorance. According to them, everything is void, and whatever manifestation exists is due to our ignorance and perception. They take it for granted that all manifestation of diversity is a display of ignorance. Just as in a dream, we may create so many things which actually have no existence. Then, when we are awake, we shall see that everything is simply a dream. But factually, although the demons say that the life is dream, they are very expert in enjoying this dream. They talk about all the wonderful things that are happening, and like it's all illusion, it's something is happening. But then when it comes to sense gratification, they'll become very, very real. They become very expert in enjoying the dream. Okay. And so instead of acquiring knowledge, they become more and more implicated in their dreamland. They conclude that as a child is simply the result of sexual intercourse between man and women. This world is born without any soul. For them, it is only a combination of matter that has produced living entities, and there is no question of existence of the soul. As many as many living creatures come out from the perspiration and from a dead body without any cause, the whole living world has come out of the material combinations of the cosmic manifestation. So this is some demonic people's favorite example. If anything is getting putrefied or in the dead body, so many germs and so many insects, they can actually take birth from the body. So in the same way, the whole material creation has just come about from a dead body, dead matter. They tell like that. So therefore, material nature is cause of this manifestation, and there is no other cause. They do not believe in the words of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, Maya dakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. Under my direction, the whole material world is moving. In other words, among the demons, there is no perfect knowledge of creation of the world. Every one of them has some particular theory of his own. According to them, one interpretation of the scripture is as good as another, for they do not believe in a standard understanding of the scriptural injunctions. This is also very famous, actually. People say, no, this is your understanding, and then these days, in the name of what is that? No, that Devdutt Patnaik, and then different kinds of people. So they actually come up with very weird interpretation of the scriptures, and there is no parampara, there is no basis, and simply they actually drag people towards sense gratification. They simply takes the scriptures and then give some weird understandings. So these are all modern demons. So they are very much appreciated, and then people actually watch their videos and things like that. It's very, very bad, actually. Okay, so text 9. So we will continue text 9 from tomorrow. Okay. So thank you all very much for joining. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Hare Krishna.